the poll here, stop sharing, and then we're going to get started. We're going to meet our wonderful panelists and have our discussion. Okay, just bear with me a minute. Sorry, this is a little scatterbrained. Okay. Okay, welcome. I'm going to start this again. My name is Camille Barrett, and I'm a senior at the Sustainable Building Science Technology Bachelor of Applied Science program at South Seattle College. Thank you for joining us tonight. In just a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Don Kim, and he also goes by DK, Melissa Sokolowski, and Stephanie Gowing. They're three professionals that focus on sustainability in buildings. We'll be discussing the valuable resources and tools available to help Seattle's small businesses become more energy efficient. The reason why I wanted to have this conversation is that there are a lot of new local and national legislation aimed at aggressively reducing carbon emissions and improving the energy efficiency of buildings. Small businesses may not be as informed about energy conservation solutions since they often are left out, they often operate out of smaller buildings that aren't legally required to comply. Yet, just a few housekeeping notes for the webinar. This might be a little late in the bringing it up, but I'm going to go do so anyways. Everybody's muted, which is great. The chat box is open for questions as well as Q&A, and I have some help moderating that. Just initially say thank you very much to Steve Abercrombie and Sheila Rowe for your assistance and always. And again, thank you very much for taking the opening poll. There will be a brief survey at the end to let me know how you liked everything. So first off, let's get to introducing the panelists very quickly. We have Don Kim. He is a fellow SBST senior, and Melissa Sokolowski is a senior project manager at the Smart Building Center and the Northwest Energy Efficiency Council, and the fabulous Stephanie Gowing, who's the director of sustainability at Capture. So Washington State is committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions across all sectors, but recent legislation focuses on energy efficiency in the built environment. Buildings are the second greatest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions behind the transportation sector, and investing in building energy efficiency is one of the most cost-efficient ways to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In 2020, Washington State implemented the 2019 Clean Buildings Performance Standards. I'm actually going to skip most of my little introduction here because Melissa is going to tell us a little bit more about it. But what is important about this is that it affects most buildings over 50,000 square feet, which is probably not going to apply to the majority of small businesses. Very recently, as of last month, there's a new bill called Bill 5722 that aims to add small buildings between 20,000 and 50,000 square feet. So there's going to be a lot more businesses that are going to be affected by having to comply to this new rule. And the vibrant Seattle metro area is home to thousands of small and medium-sized businesses. In fact, a recent 2020 study found that the Seattle metro area has the 7th most small businesses per capita among large metro areas in the country. More than 19,000 of those businesses are retail, accommodation, and food services. Many are women and minority owned and BIPOC owned. And these businesses tend to be hardest hit by things like the pandemic, and least of all, new energy efficiency measures and state and energy goals, city and state energy goals. There are a variety of resources available to help small businesses in the Seattle area work toward energy efficiency that many may not even know exist. They offer a range of programs and tools that can help provide free or low-cost energy upgrade assistance. We're going to delve a little deeper into what is available and how they can be utilized. And now I'd like to start with our panelists, introducing our panelists in more detail. We're going to start off with DK, and DK is going to tell us about his experience with SBW Consulting and very importantly, his work with the Seattle City Light. And I will just hand it over to DK, and I'm going to go to, shall I move on to your slide, DK? You're muted. You're muted, DK.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. My name is.
It happens.
My name is DK. I am a senior at SBSD program. This is the last year, and I am really honored to be in this panelist. So, for the past 2 years, I am able to intern in IFMA, City of Seattle, and this one's the last internship is SBW. So, so by doing a lot of internship, I am able to combine this hand-on experience and really good opportunity to dive deep into energy sector and more sustainable building, and which is I'm really glad to be sharing this program that Zero City Light and SBW have teamed up for the program. Can you move to the next slide, please? And this is the program that Seattle City Light and SBW have teamed up to have this program that provide a technical assistant to help the small businesses to find the small different sector of, for example, energy, low down the energy costs, water usage, and anything that has an HVAC system. So as a installer, direct installer, I am able to go out and help to speak with small businesses that I'm assigned to, which is a really great opportunity for me to have a sense of, some of the small business owner did not know that this program exists due to, some of the language barrier, or they didn't get enough resources to go to the community to see that this program really exists. So when I go down into Soto and Georgetown area, which is a lot of small business and down the strip, and I'm going down there and offer them a free LED light bulb, efficiency faucet aerator, and power strip, and efficiency pre-rinse spray well. So some of the small business owner doesn't know that it exists, and if I'm give them free stuff, they think that it is like a catch, like, oh, they're gonna raise my bill, my light bill or my water bill. And I explained to them, no, this is a really legitimate program that helps small business to to reduce costs, utility costs and water costs. And if you have more you have interested in this program, I can able to put down information in the app that SBW is working on right now. And in that term, they will team up with the contractor, and the contract will go to the site and work with the small business owner with a plan that can, if they are eligible for incentive or get a rebate back from the city. So I think this is a really good program for the small businesses, designed for the small business to have an opportunity to to learn more about this program. The Seattle City Light have teamed up with SBW. I mean, to sum up all this program, that I think this is a really good opportunity. And I want to add one more thing, that this flyer, SBW and Seattle City Light is translate to 7 different languages. So which is a really help to some of the small business that have a language barrier, for them to not understand that this program exists. So I think by doing that, is really help those small business with the language barrier to understand more and want to get into this program, and help them reduce utility costs and water costs in anything that with the lighting and water usage in the future. And if a small business owner that I attended right now, if you want to get more information, you just take your phone and scan it with the code on the flyer, or I can put my information down in the chat. You can want more information, I will gladly to help you later on in the future. And thank you so much. I only have that time, so I will pass on to the next panelist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DK. I really appreciate you telling us all about that. Do you know how long, by any chance, that Seattle City Light is going to be doing this program with SPW? Is there a timeline, like an end date or a year?
I mean, this is keep going more if it's going to be a long-term program.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I don't see there's no time date yet, but I mean, this will go longer for to help the small business with the lighting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if anybody has any specific questions on what DK was talking about, this program he's been working with, and if there are any questions about that, or you want to learn more about it. And yeah, if you want to put your contact details in the chat, DK, that would be really great. And we can certainly, if nobody has any questions now, we can certainly circle back around and introduce everybody. And I'll just open it up to any questions for now while DK's presentation is. We've got John is asking, what does SPW stand for again? I'll let you answer that, DK. SPW is a consulting firm. That's as much as I know, but I don't know if we've lost DK for the moment. But we'll see if we can get back to that one a little bit later. So let's move on to Melissa. I'd like to introduce Melissa Sokolowski. Oops, there we are. She is a senior project manager at Northwest Energy Efficiency Council, as well as the Smart Building Center. She serves as a training manager for the Building Operations Certification Program, and manages energy monitoring and diagnostic tool lending at the Tool Lending Library. And she has a degree in sustainable building science technology and energy management. Did I go too fast? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Still no.
How about now?
There we are.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, I've been having some connection issues and now audio issues. But anyway, thanks for the introduction, Camille. Yes, I am a proud graduate of the SPST program. Woo-woo! Great program. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks for inviting me, Camille. I want to tell you all a little bit about the Northwest Energy Efficiency Council. Our mission is to promote energy efficiency policies, all things energy efficiency in the commercial and industrial building space. Policies, programs, technologies that not only improve the environment, of course, number one, but also create jobs and foster economic growth. So next slide, please. And one of the big projects of NEEC, for short for Northwest Energy Efficiency Council, is the Smart Building Center, which is a physical brick and mortar space, innovation space for smart building technology. We are located in the historic Pacific Tower up on Beacon Hill, right in the heart of Seattle. It is a nonprofit education program. We do networking events, trainings, classes, and webinars like this one, demonstrations of smart technology, data visualizations, and of course we have our tool lending library, which I'll talk about in just another minute or two. Next slide, please. And so Camille mentioned the building operator certification. That's one of our big programs. I wonder if we have any BOC grads in the among the attendees today. I imagine we do. We recognize that as these mandates coming down are getting stricter and stricter, and as folks are realizing the value of energy efficiency in saving energy and money, buildings are becoming smarter and smarter. And so recognizing that operators and facility managers need to be diversifying their skill sets from not only just mechanical knowledge, but more technical skills, data analysis, and even communication about opportunities you might find and convincing decision makers to make the investment. So the building operator certification is well worth the cost of enrollment many times over, and can contribute to a lot of savings for even especially smaller organizations. So next slide, please. Thank you. And the big topic of the night for me, the tool lending library. And so Camille mentioned it's a diagnostic and energy monitoring tool library, over 85 different tool types, including thermal cameras, data loggers of all types, air quality testing equipment, flow meters, pretty much you name it, we might have it. And the best part about this is it's free to anyone in the building operations industry. We can arrange a local pickup of the tools, or we can ship them anywhere within Oregon and Washington. So check out the tool lending library at the smartbuildingscenter.org. There's also a lot of other really great resources for business owners. So check out our resources tab on the website. And next slide, please. I'll talk a little more about how the tools can help us comply with mandates such as the Clean Building Standard. Camille already mentioned it was passed in 2019, implemented this last year, and that was House Bill 1257, which applies to all commercial buildings over 50,000 square feet and being phased in over the next few years, with the largest buildings first. Now, then Bill 5722 just passed recently in the Washington legislature, and this expands the jurisdiction of the Clean Building Standard to 20,000 square feet and up. So this is going to really affect a lot of smaller buildings, which may translate to small business owners in those smaller buildings. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about the standard here. There's a lot to it. I'd say the most important thing to keep in mind is to start early, because there's a lot to it. Compliance is repeated on a 5-year cycle, and in order to comply, you have to have a year's worth of energy data. So really, it starts a year before your compliance date. And again, there are a lot of steps to those paths for compliance. So the Department of Commerce, who is administrating the standard, has a lot of great resources on their website. Highly recommend you check those out if you think this law may apply to you. Again, I mentioned that compliance is repeated on a 5-year cycle. So even if these actions that will be required to meet compliance with the standard should be become a continuous process in order to continue to meet compliance. One thing to note is that the documentation submitted must be performed by a qualified person, and there are several types of occupations that meet the Commerce's standards for a qualified person. I will put a little plug in that BOC level 2 certification is one of those ways to get become a qualified person to be able to submit those documents. Next slide, please. So even if you don't fall into needing to be compliant with these standards, we've seen standards become more and more stringent. We have had the Seattle benchmarking ordinance in place for many years, then the Seattle building tune-up, which applied to a certain 50,000 square foot buildings and up. We are now seeing the Washington Clean Building Standard applying to smaller and smaller buildings. So it just follows that, there may be stricter and stricter standards applying to even smaller buildings. Even if you don't have to meet a mandate currently, there are a lot of benefits to finding opportunities for energy efficiency. It's estimated 40% of our consumption of energy is consumed by operation of buildings. And it's estimated that about 30% of those buildings, of that energy used in those buildings, is just wasted due to inefficiencies. So just like you tune up your car periodically to keep it running efficiently, it's recommended to continue retuning your building periodically, and focusing, of course, on HVAC, lighting, domestic hot water, water use, and the building envelope are the major areas. Next slide. Energy management principles, basic. If you don't need it, turn it off. If you don't need it full power, turn it down. Next slide, please. And so a part of this process in trying to find opportunities is going to be walking down your building and just being observant to find things that you may not notice. It's a good idea to perform your walk down during occupied and unoccupied hours. This is where data loggers can come in really handy, kind of perform a night walk down for you in a sense. So you also want to walk down your building at least once in the heating season and the cooling season. Next slide, please. And so some tools to carry with your building walk down, and this is where the tool lending library can help. Basic things, light meters to measure light levels, make sure you're not overlighting a space, data loggers that can tell you if the lighting schedule matches the actual occupancy, thermal camera we have pictured here. These I'll talk a little later about what those can help with. Thermal temperature gun or a laser temperature gun, a small anemometer for wind speed, flow, airflow, those kinds of tools we can all provide at the tool lending library. Next slide, please. And again, data loggers. These are really useful. We have a lot of versatile tools, data loggers. These can help to confirm that your equipment start and stop is running exactly as it should on your schedules that fit your occupancy, verifying your set points. This can apply to buildings with a building automation system or without. So data loggers can be used to verify that sensors, for example, are reading accurately, that even if your BAS tells you that you have a damper open and closed, it may actually, there could be a mechanical linkage problem or something like that. These applications can kind of confirm. And if you don't have a BAS with data available, you can use data loggers to just measure those things in the first place. And next slide, just wanted to also mention about thermal cameras, which are a pretty popular instrument that we have in the library. And often these are used for building envelope issues, finding air leakage, lack of insulation, but they can be used for a whole host of applications, from looking for plumbing leaks, HVAC testing, electrical issues, finding issues that may not be bad yet, but that could be become a big nightmare later on. So really valuable tool. And I'll just stop there and open it up to any questions that you might have about the Smart Building Center, the Tool Lending Library, or the Clean Buildings Performance Standard.
That's great. Thank you so much, Melissa. Do you have a question from Kevin in the chat? Pull that up here real quick. He's wondering, what are the contractor, subcontractor, vendor certifications qualification standards for energy efficiency service, and if it's not too much trouble to explain a qualified person certification process and what it entails.
Yeah, absolutely. So the qualified person, there are several qualifications that make a qualified person according to Commerce. I mentioned the VOC level 2 training qualifies a person. If you're an engineer or let's see, I'm trying to remember some of the other ways that you can qualify as a qualified professional. So it's again, Commerce has several really valuable resources on their website. If you just search there for the Clean Building Performance Standard, there's a whole portal with those resources that kind of describe the different qualifications.
Oh, fantastic. It looks like Stephanie just posted a whole bunch in the chat. That's really good.
Great,
Actually,
thank you. Yeah.
She just went and pulled that right up there for you.
Perfect, perfect.
Wait, good teamwork. So Joel is wondering, if a company operates multiple buildings on one campus, is the square foot cumulative with regard to complying with the clean building laws? Good question.
Yeah, really good question. So there are a couple of different paths for the Clean Buildings Standard. One is to, there are energy use targets that the Department of Commerce has come up with that take into account that your building type, it's adjusted for square footage, your location, so weather, and how that might affect, and then again, your building use. So there are these targets that the state has come up with, and one path is to determine your energy use intensity. So that's your energy use per square foot, and compare it with the target, and then make upgrades or adjustments in order to come into that targeted range. If you have multiple buildings on one campus, it really depends on how those buildings are metered. If you can use that path, that's kind of the most straightforward path and possibly the least cost path to meeting compliance. But if you're unable to generate an EUI for a single building because you have multiple buildings on 1 meter, for example, then there is another path, which is called the investment path. And that requires an actual level 2, ASHRAE level 2 audit, and which then you have to implement all of the cost effective measures identified in that audit. So yeah, it's a very complicated law, but that's kind of the sum up of the 2 main paths to compliance.
And do you happen to know if how the law affects those that are just renting or leasing their building as opposed to those that own the building? Like how is it different?
Yeah, that law applies to the owners of the building.
The owners of the building. So if you're renting or leasing the building from the owner is going to be the one that's going to receive the documentation that says your buildings are under compliance now, and you have to.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. And then in turn, the building owners may enact some standards of their own, or incentives, hopefully, or in order to get the tenants to do their part in helping to reduce the energy consumption. There may be, depending on how the lease is set up, the owner will have incentive to get the tenants on board with helping to reduce their energy use as well.
Gotcha. And then Robert has a question: are tools available for builders from just switching back to the tool lending one day?
Yeah, so really the focus for the tool library is for commercial building operations and maintenance. Certainly we've had, architects and design professionals borrow the tools for certain aspects and in construction, but it's primarily primary purpose is for existing buildings, operations and maintenance.
Gotcha. Okay, and then just a couple more questions here, and then we'll move on to introducing Stephanie. John is wondering how Washington State's energy compliance law compares to other states, if you happen to know. Are we ahead of other states or behind in setting energy consumption standards? Is anything happening at federal level that you might know of?
Yeah, really, Washington is leading the way with the states, but I think that there are other initiatives. New York City has a big similar initiative. California is coming out with similar laws. So it's really just a matter of time. Washington's kind of leading the way on this one. And it's a matter of time before, many other jurisdictions are already following suit, and just a matter of time before it's much more widespread.
Yeah, we can't go backwards, right?
Right, and there are a lot of initiatives on the federal level, more along the lines of incentives and programs for encouraging energy efficiency.
Gotcha. And one last question from Kevin: who verifies or validates a subcontractor compliance with the energy efficiency standards for a certified energy efficiency contractor? The general contractor?
Well, Commerce verifies that you have a qualified person that is submitting the documents. And I got to mention that it may be multiple people. It could be people on your team. You may have an internal person who qualifies for one portion of it. You may need to hire an outside contractor if you're going the investment criteria path. You may have to hire a commissioning agent or someone to do an ASHRAE level 2 audit. So it really might be a full team of folks helping to pull this compliance together. But Commerce ultimately is going to validate that the qualified person who signs off on everything does actually meet those qualifications.
Good to know. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm going to move on to introducing Stephanie now for her portion of the evening. And then if we have more questions for everybody after we've had a chance to chat with Stephanie, then we'll answer a few more questions later. So let's go to, sorry, I've got too many things up on the screen. There is Stephanie. I'd like to introduce Stephanie Gowing. She is the Sustainability Director at Absher Construction. In this role, she works with multiple teams to curate, implement, and track Absher's sustainability goals. Additionally, she supports Absher's business development and industry engagement by helping subcontractors reduce their own impacts and streamline project success. Prior to Absher, Stephanie was the City of Seattle's Green Business Advocate in the Office of Economic Development, launching innovative products to support a green and inclusive economy. She has a BA from Western Washington in Environmental Planning and Policy and a Master's in Environmental Studies from the Evergreen State College. She's a lead AP and certified sustainable building advisor. She lives in Tacoma with her husband, young kids, and enjoys working in their 1920s home, camping and playing basketball.
Thanks, Camille. That was longer than everybody else's. I'm sorry about that. I don't know how mine has got longer than everybody's, but thanks for letting me be here. Thanks for everybody else being here this evening. It's great to learn all together and bring us together, Camille. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I work for Absher Construction, a third generation family-owned business that was founded in 1940. You've probably seen some of our projects running on the Northgate light rail, visiting the Othello neighborhood, maybe going to UW. We've done some UW projects, or Seattle Public School. We have a pretty diverse portfolio of projects and really strive to create and build community through leadership and experience. Absher has a long history of sustainable projects. We've done 34 LEED buildings, 3 Living Building Challenge projects, 4 Built Green projects, 10 projects with Washington Sustainable School Protocol. I'm going to rant. You may have not even heard of all these, but there's a bunch. And we've also done 4 projects using the Evergreen Sustainable Development Standard. So we've got our hands in a lot of green building work. Today I'm going to walk you through a free program that we've used internally for our own sustainability roadmap. It's called EnviroStars. And can you go to the next slide there, Camille, for me? EnviroStars helps your business save money, be good stewards, retain employees, and hopefully bring some more customers on, be more efficient, and gain recognition for your efforts. And so think of all your your learnings from Melissa and DK, and think of how to implement some of these strategies within your small business. So I'm going to talk a little bit more outside of the energy space. So this was EnviroStars is a little bit more holistic. Let's go to the next slide there. Thank you. So on the left is a printed version of the EnviroStar checklist, and on the right is the dashboard. So if you were to log on to EnviroStars.org and create a profile for your business, and walks you through this checklist. And we registered in this January, worked through the application, had our partner visit, and got recognition in March. And it's definitely an ongoing journey for our headquarters, which is in Puyallup. But it's a nice platform that connects you to rebates, such as DK's notes around Seattle City Lights and rebates, and some others that I'm going to walk through. So I'm going to go through some of these. It's hard to see on the screen because it's kind of small, but these different topics, which is in the checklist. Next slide, please. So per the core measures, which is in green for each of these sectors or areas, it asks, conduct an energy walkthrough and contact your utility provider. So we did that, which ours is Puget Sound Energy. They came out and gave us a free energy audit, found out we have some significant opportunity with some lighting upgrades. We got that lighting replaced. It was, $28,000, and PSC covered all of that incentive, and City Light has a very similar program. And then, with our new lighting that's been installed, everybody in the office and in the shops can see a lot better. And it's going to be saving us $6,000 a year on our utility bill. And so if you just want to, so this is just a snapshot of what that checklist looks like. And so I'm just going to walk through these and give you some examples. And Camille, if anybody has any questions during this process, can you let me know, because I can't see the chat box. Would you mind going to the next slide there? Thanks. So the next one is pollution prevention. So we, with pollution prevention, the EnviroStar programs is really focusing on being proactive, being organized, and properly disposing your waste in a nutshell. So then there are some resources available to help with this. So businesses in Seattle are required to have a spill kit on site and have a spill prevention plan. There are resources available to access that free spill kit, and there's right here on the right in your poster on how to do it. And there's in-language training to come to your site to help a business do that. There's also a resource through the King County for small businesses that are small quantity generators of hazardous waste to get rid of their waste properly for free. So these are just some examples of services that kind of pop up on the platform when you're going through saying yes or no, I do this. If you say no, it says, hey, did you know that this is available as a tool for you to get started. And so we did this at Apture, walking through, got our site map. We marked where our storm drains are, made sure that we had spill kits on site, and made sure that we didn't have any hazardous waste. And so these are just some examples of some tools available for pollution prevention. Can you go to the next one? Next slide for me, please. Thanks. After we're exploring a standard operating procedure for procurement, focusing on greener options within a circular system rather than a linear. So think of a linear system is to make, use, and dispose of something. And at Apture, we're opening up that to be more circular and thinking of how we can keep materials in the system longer. So how we could maybe share products from perhaps different sites to the next site, dive into our take back and repair programs, and recycling, which is not a new word for many of us, but and just going through, this checklist, we were able to reduce our solid waste, which was good, and just kind of opens a can of, looks under the hood of where are we procuring, where are we spending our money, or how much of that is recycled content, how much is that is salvaged or used, where is that material coming from, those kind of questions. Next slide, please. Reducing our emissions from vehicles and equipment is super important. So we're digging into a tailpipe reduction plan. This is going to include employee commute offers, an anti-idling policy for our job sites, and making sure that we're not using tier 1 to 3 construction equipment. And these are pieces of equipment that were built before 2008 that have more pollution, weaker compliance on how those engines were built. And so more hazardous for people's health and environment. So we're making sure that we're not using those types of equipment on site. And for wastewater, we're making just appropriate signage to remind folks to put appropriate things on the garbage, the toilet and the sewer, what's going in our sewer. And go one more back. Community. So the last, next slide, please. The next two are, how we engage our community, such as supporting other EnviroStar businesses. So this is a recognition program. You can go look at all the other businesses that are EnviroStars, and we want to support those businesses that are thinking through these initiatives and putting the effort in. So just thinking how you can invest in those as well. Training staff on your commitments is another example. And then the last section here is water. Getting a, just doing a walkthrough, we uncovered that our toilets aren't that new. And we should probably start thinking about a replacement process for some of our older toilets. And we did identify a leak, which was good to fix that up. And I just want to share too that Saving Water Partnerships with which Seattle, if you're in Seattle, is part of the Saving Water Partnership, and there are free kits available, and that you can also get a free water use assessment. So someone can come in, for example, like a brewery, and kind of think through the most efficient way to move some of your equipment around that would save water or recycle water. They go through look at your toilets and your sink and make sure you have those aerators in and things like that, and give you a nice report. And that's a free resource from Seattle Public Utilities. So that's really, in a nutshell, the EnviroStar checklist. You can go to the next slide, Camille, thank you. And I just wanted to kind of wrap it up to say that EnviroStars, it's a great tool. It's free for small businesses. It's free for any business in Washington. It's helpful to kind of kickstart your journey, think through some of these questions, build a team around different areas that are exciting, that can save some money, and connects you to local incentives and rebates. The other thing I'll point out too is that there are a multilingual hotline, and the website does translate into Spanish. I do believe that the program we're expanding on that as it does, and this is all funded and supported through agencies that are partnering on the program, which is which is why it's connecting some of those resources and rebates. So if you want to know more about Apture and how you, if you're interested in being a subcontractor, that would be Stephanie Cadwell. And I'm new to Apture and there's as a sustainable director. And if you have any questions or you want to learn more about our journey in this process, that's me. There's my email. And then I also stuck the EnviroStar link up there too, if you want to jump in on the EnviroStar fun.
That's great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That's a lot of fantastic information. I'm wondering, when you started the process for EnviroStars yourself through Apture, did you already start seeing like utility bill differences as you were finding things like, you know, water leaks and such? And did you go through the process of upgrading those toilets?
So Apture is about 280 employees. We have 2 buildings. And there's a process I had to connect in with our finance team to kind of dig into the bills. We didn't even have, we're doing paper bills. So I had to like sign up and get all that organized. So to answer your question, we will. I haven't looked, this is still very fresh in seeing, making these upgrades. The lighting rebate, the lighting installation was done about 3 weeks ago. So okay. We'll see that. And we're going to be, benchmarking our energy usage. And so this is just kind of chipping away at it. And so I haven't seen a drastic impact right now of the bill, frankly, because I haven't taken a look at it, but I'm excited to, but not quite yet.
And doesn't I think Puget Sound Energy is every quarter or every 2 months for their energy bills, so it'll probably take a cycle or 2 to show up. Well, that was great. If anybody has any questions for Stephanie or about EnviroStars or Apture's journey to be part of to be included in EnviroStars and do their own benchmarking, now's a good time. Go ahead and pop your question in the chat or in the Q&A. And then I've got another slide here for other resources that kind of just a bit of a summary of some of the things that Stephanie was talking about and this kind of thing. If anybody has any other questions they want to throw up while we're here. And I see that Bing is here who is the president of SUW Consulting, Bing Cao, and he was wonderful to answer the question about what does SUW Consulting mean, and the name comes from the first letters of the last names of the 3 founders, coined back in 1990. Wondering. Thank you so much for joining us, Bing, and answering that question for us. Do you have any other questions, comments? Let's get started a little bit. My sort of things you've encountered in your own experience with coming across small businesses in your respective departments, industries, where they've mentioned their biggest barrier to being able to implement energy efficiency measures, or do you have some thoughts on what a lot of small businesses face as far as trying to comply with either reducing their energy efficiency or comply with new standards? Throw it out to anybody.
I'll go ahead and chime in. I think one big barrier obviously is financing projects, staff time to even with low or no cost measures. Sometimes definitely I've been a small business owner. I've managed facilities for small nonprofit organizations, and it's a challenge with limited staffing to find the time to go ahead and do those building walkthroughs, or you know, do the benchmarking and to see where you are and what your EUI is. So I think that's a big challenge for many small businesses, is staff time, funding in general. If there is another related barrier, is that if there, say, a building operator or facility manager knows that there are things that can be improved and that there is a good investment to do that will pay back in a, you know, relatively short amount of time, convincing the financial decision makers that that's a worthy investment can be a challenge as well. Those are some of the biggest barriers I can think of offhand. I'll let anybody else chime in if you have any thoughts.
I think those are great. I could just riff off a few. When I was doing outreach to small businesses, my experience in that space was it didn't depend. They didn't care what department or what agency you're coming from. They just needed some help, and so it's helpful when an agency goes into a business and they have kind of more than just, they know where to point and support and not just give, you know, like, I don't know, I'm just here from ABC, you know, that's out of my compliance, you know, my space. So, I mean, I knew that was quite frustrating. So it's helpful when you're able to actually create a network and help support a small business that may need to build some trust with you to like maybe get an energy audit, but they really need help with they're out of compliance with something, not having a grease trap, for example, at a restaurant, and they just need some help on that. So I found that's just something sometimes top of mind for smaller businesses. And one other one, and maybe I'll just let you speak to DK, but is kind of what Melissa was mentioning about the financials, is getting some of those quick wins, even internally with your employees as a small business owner, and just getting that momentum to see some savings or some improvements that's benefiting your staff and getting them kind of rallied and excited about it. I've seen that be helpful to kind of think through, not only as a cost saver. So for example, at Absher, our lighting return on that investment was, 3 months. So that was like, oh, I got lighting, I can see better, and this hasn't been done for a long time. I'm so glad that there's someone here kind of thinking about these things. So I think that's something to kind of think through too, is how it's kind of trickling down to the staff level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree with you on that. And I mean, the trust, I think that the trust that when the agency go into small businesses, they don't really sure where you're coming from, and you just have a name tag. For example, I'm a direct installer, I just have a name tag, and they say Seattle, but they're not really sure what I'm coming to do. And sometime I went to some small business owner is a first generation, they don't speak English really well, so I had to speak to them in a way that explained to them this is a free consulting or a free auditing that gives you more information on how to save more energy in your establishment. So I mean, to build a trust and to talk to them, in a way that they are really understanding how everything works. And I mean, some of it's just like in the back of the kitchen, come down and just ask me what's going on, and all that. But it's just that to connect them in a certain way that we are here to help. I mean, that's I'm blessed to have a tremendous impact on, like a small business and help them. I mean, I really, really like the job. So this is all I want to was contributed to the panel.
Yeah, there's a, you know, it's hard to build that trust, and to be sure that somebody that's coming to you with something free, that it really is free, you know, and that you, for in the case of what DK is doing, and you know, I'm glad you're out there doing it, man. So important. John has a question for the panel. He says, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. With all of the energy consumption regulations and environmental incentives, this would seem to be really confusing, especially to a small business owner. What can be done to guide the SBO through all of this? It also seems that the ones that want to do the right thing might find this, but what about the SBOs that really don't want to participate? Those people that don't want to change anything because it's working just fine the way that it is.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Of course, if business owners own buildings that are required to meet some of the mandates, then they're going to have to, right? They're forced to, but there actually can be, you know, they may find that it's a good, they actually benefit in the end because they're implementing energy savings, which translates to the bottom line ultimately. But for folks who really don't think it's important, or don't know what kind of opportunities are out there, I think it's really just up to, you know, organizations that are working in this space, and up to superstar champions such as yourself, Camille, to like help get the word out and get folks to understand that there is a lot of opportunity here, not only to meet mandates, but to save energy, which translates directly to money down the line, money that can be put back into the business, or, you know, again, really affect the bottom line.
It also just,
oh, sorry. So I was just going to say that I'm just going to leave this up here for a few minutes, and then I want Stephanie to go ahead and speak. But this is just some more information if anybody is interested, for resources for small business owners and everybody.
I do know it's 7:30, so I'll just say it really quickly, but there is, you know, the market's moving, and consumers definitely want to procure and do business with greener companies, and they want to work for these types of companies. So there's that element too, that I would just contribute to that. And also liabilities are also a concern. I'm just thinking of like pollution prevention. You know, if you have a small business and you have somebody in your parking lot blows a gasket and pollutes your storm drain, and it's a significant enough to, I don't think that would be, anyways, you don't want a spill being on your private property. So you want to have a spill kit. That's just to respond to that. So just a little liability is another one to compliance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good question. That's fun. It's fun to play that.
Yeah.
That's other.
And it's one of the biggest challenges is people are just like, no, I can't, I don't want to make those changes. I'm just, you know, things are fine the way that they are, and I'm not going to do that. But we are up against it's at 7:31, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I want to thank everybody that has come this evening, from the one fantastic selection of panelists to my behind the scenes help in the form of Sheila and the SBST program, Steve Abercrombie, and to all of the attendees that have come this evening. We made it actually very easy. Thank you, Melissa, for putting that information in the chat. And this will be recorded, so you feel free to access it later. I'll make sure the link goes out to everybody, so you can check it out later and look at some of the other resources in more detail, whether it's in the chat or on some of the slides. And a big thank you again to Melissa and Stephanie and DK. And thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for showing. Thank you.